I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to see all of you guys. Well, I divide my life into life before the phone call and life after the phone call. So my life before the phone call, as I was briefly introduced here, I was a very successful model. I did a lot of runway all over here in New York and Europe and everywhere, and I had my own TV show on HGTV, Country Style, for 6 years. I had a brief one on the Travel Channel. I had my own band. I had, it was called Dance Out Loud. We were a Motown show band, and then I had another band called Michelle Torres and the Leaf Blowers. We were a conjunto tejano band, cantando en español, para toda la gente habla español. Hola, ¿qué tal? So I've had this very, very varied life. I was also the voice of "You are entering the transportation hall, which leads to a departure concourse and gate. Trains leave approximately every 2 minutes and stop at all concourses." I'm sorry, I didn't get that. I'm sorry, I still didn't get that. Please hold for the next available representative. Si me gustaría continuar esta llamada en español, por favor, marque el número. That's my job, before the phone call. Then the phone call came on June 30th of 2009, and it was when we got the diagnosis that my baby brother, John Damian Torres, was diagnosed with a stage 4 glioblastoma, and that is a brain tumor, about the size of a lemon. So for 16 months, we fought valiantly to save his life. On October 28th of 2010, we lost our fight. He left 3 children, and he's sadly, sorely missed. So you're thinking, could it get worse? It does. It does, because 2 weeks after that, I got the diagnosis myself of grade 3, stage 3 invasive ductal carcinoma, which is
breast cancer.
Breast cancer, that's right. So less than 2 weeks after burying my little brother, we started the journey all over again, and I got my port, and I met with my team, and I said, am I going to lose my hair? And they said, yes. And I said, are you sure I'm going to lose my hair? And they said, yes. Am I going to lose my hair? Yes. Yes, you're going to lose your hair. They said it would come back, but I didn't realize how weird it would come back. But I said, you know, I'm going to take this the way that you gave it to me, which is basically by the fists. And I started wearing ridiculous chemo wigs to chemo every month. I had this one, I had a samurai wig, I had an Elvis wig. I had people from all over the country sending me the most hideous wigs ever. And it was at that point that I realized that what I'm really doing is not something for me, but a little guy, I was in the treatment center, a little guy came over in his walker and he said, were you wearing a brown rubber wig yesterday? And I was reading my Oprah magazine, and I was like, yeah. And I had on this wig at the time. And he said, I want to thank you. And I said, well, for what? He said, it was my first day of chemo, I was terrified. And I saw you, and I wasn't scared anymore. So my hair came back. Yeah, it's cool, isn't it? Yeah. So my hair came back, and I went through chemo, and I went through a double mastectomy, and then I started my radiation, and it was painful, and you're thinking, could it get any worse? But it does! It does! I got shingles on top of the radiation. Yeah, but I pulled through that fine, and you're thinking to yourself, Michelle, could it get any worse? But it does! From the shingles, from the radiation, I got a skin cancer. So I had my swap out surgery, everything was good, and in 2012 I was done, and now I'm just on maintenance. That's what I'm talking about. But you know, people say what got you through all of this must have been your sense of humor, and that was part of it, but what really got me through it is I was born and raised right outside of Los Angeles. And every single weekend in the summertime, we would go down to the surf in Los Angeles Beach, Laguna, Newport. Very dark, very cold, very sandy, and full of shells and bottle caps and glass. And you'd go in there, and we as little kids, all 4 of us, my little brother John included, would go in there, and my father would stop, and we'd get this raft. And we always knew that as little kids, if we held on to this raft, no matter how big and black the surf above us, that we'd surface somewhere. Might be 50 yards down the road, down the beach when the wave let go of us, but we would surface. And sometimes we would be bloodied and, sand filled in our pants, and I'd lose my top. Later I'd lose what went in my top, but that's another story. But I'd lose my top and we'd be scraped, but somehow we would surface. And then we'd drag this thing back up the beach. My dad is standing there with his transistor radio swearing at us. It's a lovely childhood. But we do it again. And then we do it again. And we do it again. So all the time that I was losing John in his battle, we held onto the raft for him. And his raft surfaced in a very different place. His raft surfaced in a place that's very soft and very gentle and forever. And I love him and I miss him. My raft surfaced here. And so you're thinking, Michelle, can it get any worse? I don't know, maybe, it might. But I have this raft, and I'm going to hold on to it, and it's what got me through. Because the waves are dark, the surf is cold and violent, and you're scared, and then you surface, and you see your dad swearing at you, and you know everything's going to be okay. So, thanks, Dad. What a childhood. With his transistor radio, listening to the Dodgers, chomping on a cigarette and swearing at me. He's responsible for this. And so, for all of you that are doing this, and for all of you that are newly diagnosed or that have a recurrence, or that have beaten it, you have a raft to hold on to, and the people following you will have a much easier time because of what you're doing. And to all the doctors and nurses and techs and people that do what you do who have to deliver that phone call, you're going to have a raft to hang on to because it gets easier. And to everybody who has lost somebody, you have a raft to hang on to that will surface. It's not where you wanted it to surface, it's not what you wanted, but you will surface. And so I'd like to thank you all very much for doing what you do. Thank you. Oh yeah, okay, now, enough about what you do, now let's talk about me. Since I had my chesticles removed and I have these nice 13 little girl hero boobs, I won first runner-up in the Wilhelmina modeling contest in New York City out of 7,000 other women. I had myself featured in Redbook magazine last month. I will be shooting next month for O magazine. And I have had 4 producers call me from the Dr. Phil show. But let's don't get too excited about any of that because it doesn't pay anything. Nothing. 0, which is why I'm not mentioning any of my doctors because I owe them a boatload of money. And my raft has now turned into an aerobed, and I am under the 85th Street overpass right there in Portland Street. Wave at me as you go by. So all I'm saying is that there is life after the diagnosis, and I want to thank each and every one of you for doing what you do. And one more thing, if you want to follow me as we go on this extra journey, it's Michelle, M-I-C-H-E-L-E, with 1 L. The Michelle with 2 L's has a set something much larger than me and is an adult film star, which I'm not anymore. So don't get us confused however tempting that may be. Thank you, everybody. Have a really great walk. I'm so glad you do what you do. Thank you.